Tracking and beating ISIS. Who needs boots on the ground when you've got bankers? Hi, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and just follow the money. That's what this is really all about. Because that's exactly what a new group called the Counter-Extremism Project is doing to stop the cash flow to ISIS. It's literally putting together a database of extremists and where these extremists get their financial support. Easier said than done, but they're trying to do it. An idea more of us should be supporting? To Ben Stein, Charles Payne, Dagan McDowell, along with Adam Lashinsky and Charlie Gasparino. Charles Payne, what do you think of this?
I love the idea. Listen, people need to think of ISIS as a classic business startup. They got their seed money from very wealthy people, mostly Sunnis in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and places like that. Then they had the general business, Al-Qaeda chipped in, locals chipped in. The same sort of thing, a Series A, a Series, but always, what we don't talk about, they have $2 billion around that. That's what we say. Where do they bank this money? I don't think a lot of Americans realize from 2009 until this year, large banks have been hit with billions of dollars in fines for funneling money for Iran, Cuba, Sudan. I mean, essentially doing business with terrorists, multi-billion-dollar businesses with these guys. They're probably funneling this money through a Western bank, which is scary to think. The Western bank that I guarantee has access to the Federal Reserve.
Ben Stein, this would not be the first time we've seen, nefarious groups try to launder their money through what seem like very respectable institutions, but it's also a lot easier said than done to get to the bottom of that, isn't it?
Well, sir, with great respect, they are very largely self-supporting. They don't have much of a burn rate. They have to spend money on bullets and rockets, but they're taking in money from refineries. They're taking in money from kidnappings. They apparently in one day got several $100 million from bank robberies in the areas they conquered. I don't think this is going to be a particularly fruitful way. Obviously do it. Obviously try every single thing. But the issue here is not to cut off their charge card. The issue is to kill them.
You know, you raise a good point, because the fact of the money taken is, and the matter, I should say, is that even if you stop the flow of money, even if you track down the database and they get no extra money, they're already sitting on top of billions. So we're already told that they've literally cashed out a lot of these positions that have bags of American cash they're handing out to mercenary soldiers. So how do you stop that?
It is. I don't want to discourage trying to stop it and attacking ISIS on the financial front, so to speak, but it's very difficult to do it, to Ben's point, self-supporting, self-financing economy, very much like, I'm sure you know nothing about this, the mob or the mafia.
No, that's nice.
You know.
Oh, it's a renaissance.
Ooh, the mob.
Did you hear that?
Yes, as an expert in the mob.
I'm serious. Extortion and tributes in the regions in which ISIS operates. You have a gray market in oil, wheat, antiquities. It's a microeconomy, if you will, very hard to crack.
Well, you know, if you look at the history of cracking down on the mob, once we discovered that it was a money operation, we did a pretty good job cracking down on it. I mean, Rudy Giuliani could talk about that as well. You know, listen, I don't know if they invest their money. You know, it's logical that they do, because that's some of what Al-Qaeda did. So they do probably have some banks involved in this thing. The real question is, can we ever track who they're selling their oil to? That's a lot harder, but I'll tell you, listen, if we can find Osama bin Laden in the middle of, Pakistan,
true enough,
we should be able to have the financial, the wherewithal between the CIA and private groups to find out who's buying it. But I will say one other thing. Why are we? You would think that the CIA would have a beat on this already. Yeah. This is part of the.
We don't know that they don't.
Exactly.
We don't know that they don't.
Well, if
yeah,
they
that's
did,
exactly.
Well,
Neil,
if they did, they wouldn't be laundering this through already.
Adam?
That's exactly where I was going to go with this. I think one of the questions we're not discussing is whether or not this is appropriate activity for a private group. I mean, again, I agree with something Ben said. Fine to try, but I would say that the United States is actually pretty good at economic warfare. And in this case, it's not like our economic warfare against Russia, where we have to be a little concerned or very concerned about what the repercussions could be with our trading partners or our own companies. There are no trading partners or our own companies to deal with here. I think we will wage effective economic war.
Why are we late off
on them? The question is if it will be enough. It won't be enough.
Adam, why are we so late to the game on the economic aspect of ISIS? I mean, we're talking about it now. They're
we don't know that we are.
I know we are. But the question is, and this gets back to the president and his priorities, and whether he ever took, when you're running around calling ISIS the JV team, then you're not even really thinking about whether they're laundering their money
Charlie, that it's fair to say that the CIA, the CIA is not our proudest institution, right? They've been behind the ball across administrations.
They've done other stuff that's
generations, and you're right. It's pathetic, but they're not. I assume they're on it, Charlie.
But you know, Adam, the CIA takes their orders from the president. I mean, some of this is prioritized by the
agency takes its orders from the president. That's fair.
The president.
All right, well, let's come back to the issue at hand. Charles Payne, I want to just ask you: is this going to be effective? You get a database of terrorists. I assume we have various databases of bad guys. This is going to be unique for ISIS, ISIL, whatever you want to call them. Is it, in the long run, is going to make much of a difference? Because these groups this week alone have morphed into 4 or 5 different splinter groups.
Ultimately, you have to kill them. Ultimately, we need boots on the ground. We need to destroy and kill them.
You know, there's an app for that. There's an app for that.
But I do think, and I do want to get back to the notion, Ben talked about the $490 million they took from the central bank. A lot of these oil fields they just took control of. When the president, the first press release, when we launched the war against them, he said we were attacking them responsibly. In other words, we're still dilly-dallying around. We're not even out there destroying structures that are creating this wealth in the first place.
Well, because one of the issues is that they're doing business with a whole variety of people who are not just Islamic terrorists and militants.
Because if you have oil for $25 a barrel, people want to buy it.
This is a spider, right? That is. This is.
Well, wasn't the issue with Turkey in the beginning of the week that Turkey was being absent, and that was very conspicuous. That a lot of people read into that. Well, they must be providing a passageway for that black market oil, or maybe a receiver of that oil. I don't know. But then by the end of the week, you had Turkey saying, "Yeah, we're going to join."
And one of the problems, has also been these wealthy benefactors of these emerging militant groups, like in Qatar. But the Qatari government won't crack down on them. They're essentially complicit in some way.
Let's cut them down. We spend a lot of money on intelligence in this country. The president was late on the game on this and calling these guys the JV team. JV teams generally don't have financing operations. We know they're not the JV team anymore. Let's start calling people out. You know, if Turkey's financing, or if rich people in Qatar are financing, let's start talking.
That might have been one of the things that got
the old days. They would shoot them.
You're right.
The CIA would go in there and blow their brains out.
Where does this go? If we have this started, and to your point, then maybe the better part of valor here is not to show any valor, just to start killing. We do want to get a sense of where this network is operating from, right? I mean, it could be from either a lot of rich oil sheiks or others who are more than just a passive financial interest, right?
Well, the CIA and the NSA can probably listen to every single conversation that these guys have, and they can cut off the money from Qatar. They can cut off the money from wealthy people in Saudi Arabia. But these guys, as we just said, have huge amounts of money just lying around. They only have some few thousand fighters. It's not like they're buying aircraft carriers or B-1s. They don't have that much in the way of expenses. They can just make it up as they go along by robbing and stealing. I applaud any effort to stop them at all, but eventually, as someone just said, it's going to take a bullet to the brain.
Yeah, why not just start assassinating anybody any businessman that deals with them that we know? Just start shooting. That's the old CIA would have done. That's what the Mossad. By the way, that's exactly what the Mossad would do. That's what people would do when they're at war. You have to kill the enemy. I don't see why we're going to worry about this. They're out to kill us. There's people financing them. Bullet through the head.
I don't think Mossad would kill business partners of terrorists before trying to kill terrorists.
What are you nuts?
It's not like that they're all gathered at some social club, like just.
Come on.
Humphrey Bogart, you know, and like a little.
It makes it sound like it's so easy.
I'm not saying they're
thievery going on.
I'm not saying they're at the Ravenite Social Club. I'm just telling you that
the Damascus Ravenite Social Club. Yeah.
Do I get to do the rest of the show, or do I
don't know. All right, guys, we shall see. The database is on. We'll see if it solves anything. Meanwhile.